for joining us. We have a great team today with lots of insights to share, and I'm really excited to hear your ideas about how civil engineers can help during these trying times. Marcia, can you go ahead and start off by introducing yourself?
Thank you very much, Tirza. Yes, hi, I'm Marcia Anderson-Bomar, and I am the Assistant General Manager for the Metropolitan Atlanta Regional Transit Authority, known as MARTA. My group has engineers of all kinds, civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, and systems. We have architecture and design as part of our group, as well as program and project management and construction. And then I have a financial group that does all of our capital programming and funding related matters. And we are, it's an unusual time for us because ridership is way down, but the demand for service is critical for those who need us. And so our workload has transformed, but it certainly hasn't stopped.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Bob, can you go ahead and introduce yourself next?
Yeah, my name is Bob Mora. I'm the owner of a medium or small engineering firm in New Orleans. We have 16 employees right now. And, we've kind of taken the approach with COVID-19 of just really making sure that the people at our company are good. We started working remotely in the middle of March, and just put a lot of effort into ensuring that everybody was comfortable at home and had the resources needed to work remotely. Really just kind of stressing the importance of their health and encouraging them to take care of, themselves or family members. As far as like little things that we've done, we buy tickets for the company every year to the New Orleans Jazz Fest. And so we kind of just converted that to a donation to a local radio station. We buy employees Uber Eats gift cards so they can support local restaurants. But other than that, it's been, we've had a lot of work going on. So really just the challenge of continuing to work as normal in a totally new circumstance.
Absolutely. It sounds like you're doing a lot of really great things. It'd be interesting to hear from you for the rest of the hour. Brian, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself next?
Yeah, hold up. All right, there we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, of course. My name is Brian Fan. I'm a transportation engineering associate with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. So during this time, actually, I kind of did a unique approach. So having the ability to work from home and also being allowed with my family, I started a little small project. And we've been making protective face shields for nurses all throughout Southern California. But on the side of work, things are still going on. Construction has actually ramped up. And since there's less traffic on the roads, we're able to do a lot more improvements in our infrastructure. So, and in addition, a lot of my projects are heavily dependent on some traffic impacts. So basically anything that we're doing right now, we're just trying to streamline things as fast as possible. So yeah, just a little bit insight on that, and I'll share some more details on the project that I'm working on throughout this presentation.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And Luke, can you go ahead and introduce yourself next?
Sure. My name is Luke Royal. I'm part of the UW-Milwaukee ASCE student chapter. I'm a senior civil structural engineer looking to graduate in about 2 weeks, so I'm very excited. And in our response to COVID-19, we had donated our leftover PPE from our concrete canoe competition last year. And I believe we made a really nice impact on the community and spreading the good word and encouraging people to stay positive all at the same time.
Absolutely. It's great that you were able to do that, Luke. And congrats on graduating.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, to get us started, we have a kickoff question for everyone. Can you describe, and most of you have actually done this, but maybe if you can elaborate a little bit more, can you describe what you are doing or have done to help locally or nationally with the COVID-19 pandemic? So, Brian, I know you had mentioned that you were going to share more about what you're doing. Do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, sure. So This all started off as a really small project. Some background on this is my girlfriend. She's also a nurse, so she's been actually the straight front lines and helping out with the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition to that, my brother is also a nurse, so I have a lot of connections to a lot of people who are working in the medical industry. So I knew that, hey, I kind of want to do something to help out. And I also happen to have a 3D printer. Now, this all kind of came around that this 3D printer was just collecting dust for a few years. I haven't touched it in a while, and I wanted to make something of it. So with the lack of material manufacturers to make PPE, the lack of protective equipment, 3D printing became a viable solution to provide these equipment for our medical staff. So since then, we started off with a small batch. I just made 20 and I donated them to her hospital, and they were thrilled with the PPE face mask. Since then, I knew that this could be a lot bigger. We can help out so much more people. So I expanded my operation. I set up a fundraising campaign to raise some more money, to purchase more 3D printers, purchase more material. And now I basically, for the past 3 weeks, we've been producing hundreds of face shields for medical staff all throughout California. And I can proudly say that we've just actually hit 3,000 shields produced and donated. And we're not planning to stop anytime soon. So I actually have a sample here for you guys, just to show.
Yay!
So, here's reprinted frames. It's optimized to be designed to be printed very quickly, and we attach it with some film that provides protective cover. These don't require any rubber bands or anything like that. It's and you can safely talk to anybody. You can go the market with this. This has been very, very helpful. And a lot of nurses have said that they have so much more confidence when they're walking to a patient's room that could be potentially.
What is the role of civil engineer in
I'm sorry?
COVID-19? What is the role of civil engineer in COVID-19?
It's okay. Hello? Oh, I can't hear you guys now. Oh no.
Brian, we can hear you.
There we go. Okay,
Tears
now.
you've muted. Tears you've been
Okay.
muted.
Perfect. All right, there we go. And since then, basically, it's only been a very small operation. It's only been me, my mom, and my dad that have been making these for the last few weeks, and we don't plan to stop because I do foresee this either getting a second wave coming, and we're doing what we can to definitely help out our medical staff in this time of need. So. That's my civil contribution so far to help out, and it's been a great journey, and we're so glad to do what we can to help out in this troubled times.
Awesome. Well, it's great that you were able to do that. Luke, do you want to go ahead and talk about what you all have done with your concrete canoe PPE?
Sure. So when COVID broke out, there was obviously a shortage of PPE, specifically N95 masks. So we knew that we had a stockpile built up from last year with the anticipation that we would have a lot more participation with Concrete Canoe this year. So when the university had shut down all operations, we decided to I don't want to say broke into our university where we could access our PPE, but we did anyway. And we obtained like 230 N95 masks and donated them to 3 different hospital networks in the Milwaukee area. We wrote them a very nice letter just saying, hey, this is who we are. We believe that, you know, our first responders and the medical workers on the front lines need this more than any of us do right now, because we can follow those social distancing rules and, you know, essentially make our own PPE as well. So we've done that, and you know, a lot of the hospitals got back to us and just said, hey, you know, we're very thankful for your contribution and donation in a time of need. And we also reached out to the Milwaukee Police Department because we went on their website and we saw that they were taking in donations for, you know, similar items, as well as cleaning products, Clorox wipes, that sort of thing. So I also work part-time at Costco Wholesale. It's a lot of fun to work there and observe people's behaviors sometimes. But a lot of changes have gone on, and I asked if I would be able to make a larger purchase for some jugs of Lysol disinfectant. So myself and another member from our chapter purchased some Lysol jugs and some spray bottles and distributed them to the 7 districts for the Milwaukee Police Department. So we tried what we could, and we hope we made a difference. You know, if it wasn't a major impact, it was just just a symbol of, hey, we don't have much to offer, but we gave what we have to inspire people to do better things. So.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what's important, right? Just one foot in front of the other during this, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Bob, do you want to talk about some of the things that you're doing locally or nationally?
Yeah, sure. I thought this was the first question you would ask this, so I think I spoke a little bit ahead of the question. But yeah, as I said, you know, our work, we don't necessarily work in the healthcare industry or in the restaurant industry, so we haven't, you know, we've tried to support those people where we can, but we haven't found that ideal opportunity as a company. I mean, again, doing small things, supporting local restaurants, you know, tipping generously and things of that nature. So we've really been looking to do something that aligns with the work that we do, more with infrastructure and recreational activity outside. And so a lot of it within our company, we rely on employees to sort of present opportunities to us. And, you know, this week I did have an employee present an opportunity. I'm still kind of working out the details with some maintenance inside of a local park they have some invasive species that grows on top of the water and starts choking out the oxygen and just kind of creates like generally a problem. It's being maintained. The maintenance money is maybe now got cut. And so we're looking to try to step in and initiate a little program to, you know, just offset some of that, because the cost is going to become exponential if they sort of don't do that maintenance for a year. Like the plant just goes crazy. It covers the entire water system. So really that and it has been a challenge for us, because we are wanting to do something and you're sitting at home seeing all this stuff, you want to help, but we hadn't found that natural fit, you know, within the first however long it's been. It feels like 5 months. What has it been? 5 weeks or something. But I think it's gonna slowly we'll get it sorted out where we fit in.
Yeah, absolutely. Marcia, do you want to talk about some of the things that you're doing? Marcia, are you still there?
I am. Sorry, I was still muted. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I wear two hats. I mentioned before that I'm the AGM for capital programs at MARTA, but I'm also on the city council in my little city. So I'm kind of sharing information back and forth and ideas back and forth to see how we can all be better through that information. MARTA's doing a great job of educating and arming us with information and with resources. So one of the things that we have two shops in town. One is a little custom-made donut shop. You walk in and you pick out your favorite toppings and they decorate them for you. And the other one is a pie studio, sweet and savory. The pie studio has a program called Pie It Forward, and the donut shop has a program called Dough Nation. And so in both cases, they are taking donations and then providing food to first responders. And you can let them pick, or you can pick your favorite group of first responders. So I think they realized very quickly that there were just so many pies I was going to buy and eat. But people like me, would be happy to help others. And so it's been wildly successful. And the hospital workers and the police and the fire and all those folks feel very well taken care of, very loved. We did an ice cream social at one of the hospitals last week for a little change of pace. So that's been one of the things. The other thing is a number of the restaurants started GoFundMe campaigns, knowing that it would take a while for unemployment to kick in. And so a lot of us rallied and did what we could to help them, have funding to take care of their employees until they had other resources available. And those are kind of outreach things. We're doing a lot of internally focused things, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But with the nature of our business, there's so much internal need, not just our employees, but their families, that a lot of it is very inwardly focused right now to make sure that people are okay. And just because our employee still has their job, it doesn't necessarily mean that their spouse or partner does. They may have, maybe a 1 or 2 adult household, and suddenly we have some people who have 5 children, and suddenly they're working from home and they have some challenges. So we have a lot of different needs that way as well. And since we've been working nonstop because we are considered an essential service. So we have to make sure that our staff is healthy and is able to do their business so we can continue to serve the public that relies on us so heavily.
Yeah, it's great that you're able to go ahead and support your employees like that, Marcia. It's so important that we support each other, right?
Absolutely.
So we have our first question in the chat box. Brian, we're asking if there is a link for donations for your Mass. Are you able to share a link in the chat box for everyone? Oh, Brian, I think you're on mute. If I had $1 for every time I've talked while I've been muted during this, I would be very, very wealthy.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Actually, I do. So in the midst of all of this, in order to collectively organize all the information and resource, I created a website. So the website is www.shieldsfornurses.com. That's plural shields. I'll type it on in the chat. But a lot of this fundraising is just kind of done through a Facebook group right now. So if you guys go on that website, there's a link on how to support, how to donate. I'm on now to the second phase of this project, where at first I did fundraise amount just to get us going. But now, since things have been set and organized, everything is scalable. And I had a meeting with my parents yesterday. I'm like, okay, how much more can we help out? What can we do? And my dad basically said, like, let's do it. Let's make as much as we can. So I'm gonna send an announcement out today to everyone that's helped out. But I plan on making at least 10,000 shields to donate, and that's where we see kind of the ballpark at. And that's within our own physical capacity of what we can do. And we've had tremendous support from the community. There's been a lot of people that asked for volunteers, but just due to COVID-19, it's really hard to have any physical people here to help out. So everything has just been me, my mom, and my dad. And that's it. But definitely check out that website. You will see the tons of responses. You'll see people just sharing their pictures. It's been a great place, and we're gonna keep going. That's it. We're gonna keep going until this all clears out. But thank you all for your support. Yeah, really.
That's excellent.
Awesome, Brian. That sounds awesome. It's good to have such lofty goals. It sounds like you're really doing such a great job in supporting your local community.
Yeah, thank you much.
So again, if you all have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll read them. But our next question is specifically about supporting either local or national groups. So sections and branches within ASCE, EWB, any other local groups that you're involved with. Bob, do you want to go ahead and talk about some of your involvement with local groups or national groups?
I've been involved with the Community Engineering Corps, the CEC Corps, really since it started. I think New Orleans was one of the pilot cities where they tried it out, and I guess we proved that it was effective. So we have actually started 2 projects recently. We kind of had met and talked about them and started the paperwork before COVID-19, and now they're both approved and moving along. Again, neither one of them is really directly related, but I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways they're indirectly related. One of them is an addition to a local skateboard park that's underneath an interstate, so they just need some help with permitting through the highway department, and it's adjacent to a rail line. And we've done some work with them in the past. And then the other one is a project that's making some drainage improvements at the local African American Museum in New Orleans. And so really just dealing with the challenge of like how to keep those projects moving while everybody's remote and things of that nature. I did want to mention kind of as a side note as well, for anybody that's not familiar with the CEC Corps. This is an organization where you can work on projects in a pro bono capacity inside the United States, and that's open to like all the ASCE groups, sections, branches, younger member groups, student chapters. You can form a project team, and the model is to basically partner with another organization, and you get a project approved, and then you kind of go through a process where they cover you with insurance and things of that nature. But it's been a really nice fit for us locally. I want to say these 2 projects might be projects like 8 and 9 or so. We did another project with a local community farm, and so that's been really nice. Like I now buy produce from them, so I get to go pick up produce every week right now during this thing, which is much nicer than going to a grocery store to go to a farm. But anyway, yeah, so really CEC Corps. A little bit of stuff with EWB is kind of up in the air with it being in Guatemala. We're trying to, figure out travel and things of that nature, but hopefully we'll keep those projects moving forward as well.
Awesome. Well, some great things that you're involved in. Luke, do you want to talk about your student chapter and some of the things that you all have done? Uh-oh, you're on mute.
Yep, I got it now. So again, going back to like what we said, we kind of felt once our funds kind of ran dry with everything with COVID going on right now, we had decided to use just some of our networking resources, reaching out to, the Milwaukee Fire Department, the Milwaukee Police Department, and we also found a company that reallocated some of its resources to manufacturing face shields. So this company called Upstaging normally provides lighting and staging for, concerts like Paul McCartney, Rolling Stones, Miley Cyrus, Billy Joel, etc. And they're really doing an incredible thing. They have done. They have manufactured thousands of masks and delivered them to New York within the first couple of weeks. I mean, I think they probably delivered over 10,000 masks when everything first started to break out, and they're offering their transportation services as well. So it was really cool to see, and really our part as a student chapter was to really pass along that information to our local first responders as well, saying, hey, if you need masks, here's an outlet. Here's a supplier that can help you out here and now, rather than waiting on, say, the federal government or whoever. So.
Awesome. That's great that you were able to support in that way. So I know, let's talk a little bit about innovation as far as contribution goes. Marcia, do you want to start off in talking about some of the innovative things that you've heard of other organizations maybe doing or helping with?
Sure. So one of the most fun ones, as you may know, if you went on Amazon shortly after this started, among the many things that were difficult to come by, hand sanitizer was way at the top of the list. And we happen to have a lot of breweries, craft breweries in the Atlanta area. So a number of the breweries pivoted and took their wonderful alcohol, and instead of making beer, they made hand sanitizer. And some of them are continuing to do that. I'm sure some of them are making money. I'm not sure that's really why they did it. They really were doing it because the community needed that desperately. And there was really no source for that. So that was one of the fun things that we saw. Let's see, what are some of the other ones that we saw? One of the things that, I kind of want to point out, being creative and innovative is not just about materials and supplies, it's also about people. And so in the transit industry, when the media talks about frontline workers, they're talking about bus operators and the train operators and maybe the people who clean the stations. What they don't talk about is the construction workers, the field inspectors, all of those people. And so I've been that voice advocating very loudly for that group to be treated with the same care and concern and love as the other frontline workers. And at MARTA, they had a program to thank they called them the heroes. They had a bonus program for those frontline workers, and the program was really focused on the bus operators and train operators. And we were able to effect a change and get all of the folks in our construction area included in that frontline pool. And I thought that was really important to acknowledge, the people who do what we do are putting themselves out there, particularly now because ridership is down. We've really ramped up the ask to please go out and get as much work done as you can, because we're not disturbing the passengers. We're not creating an uncomfortable environment for them to travel because there are so few of them. So let's get a lot of stuff done. So when you ask those workers to go out there and put themselves out there at this time, they really need to be respected in a new and different way. So I feel good that the organization got it, and I hope other organizations recognize the importance of those people who are out in the field doing work for us.
Absolutely. It's great that you're able to advocate for those people, right? Brian, do you want to talk about some of the innovation that you've seen other organizations doing that's inspired you? Because clearly you've been inspired, right?
Let me see. Yes. So a lot of this has to do with, in the 3D printing community, it's very, we're very connected in a sense, because 3D printing is about sharing ideas. There's most files or most software in order to print something, for example, obviously the face shield like this, right? These are kind of shared throughout the internet, and they're like, hey, if I can print it here, I can send you this file, and then you would be able to print it back at your own place. So using that network and seeing other people and other industries in obviously New York, Louisiana, through the East Coast where this got hit first before it really impacted the West Coast, I saw those makers create their 3D printed shields and obviously followed suit over here. Now, in addition to inspiration, you got to consider that now the national government is also turning the 3D printed technologies to help with the situation as well. In addition, here in Los Angeles, our mayor has even worked with our local universities to see what they can do to help with this. So being inspired from them, I also being an engineer, we're problem solvers. I knew that I had the skill set to figure it out and create this entire system, this basically factory that's in our garage right now. It's crazy. If you guys go to the website, it's basically, I have racks of 3D printers there to be able to produce as many shields as possible. So with that inspiration, I hope to also inspire others. And in doing so, we also have connected with other 3D printers in the area. So we can share them the same files so they can create for their local hospitals and so on. So it's a very collaborative support, and it's been a great journey so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard a lot of great things about the 3D printing community, right?
Yeah.
So we have a question from Marcia. What steps do you see transit agencies take for the health and safety of the public and maintain ridership volumes in the post-COVID-19 world?
That's a great question. So are you hearing an echo? I'm hearing an echo. Yeah. So there are really two parts to that. One has started already, which is how do we take care of the equipment and the facilities to ensure that we have safe conditions for the traveling public. Very interestingly, we partnered with Delta Airlines. They have a technology that they use in their airplanes. A lot of the cleaning agents, you spray on, you wipe it around, you kind of wipe it off, and it does its job for a little while, but it doesn't have as long lasting an effect as you might like. Delta uses a process where the material actually has an electrostatic charge, so it clings to the surfaces and it provides a much deeper and much longer period of killing anything bad that's on the surface. So we've been innovating a lot in those ways to find better ways to prepare the system. We have, again, because ridership is down, we have cranked up an effort. We have 38 rail stations, and we've cranked up one of our contracts, and we're going to be deep cleaning all of our stations and resealing all of the porous surfaces so that they're ready to receive the passengers when they start coming back. In terms of the social distancing, which I think is a big part of this question, we on the buses, we have the seats marked so that you're only allowed to sit in certain seats so that we maintain social distancing. We reprogram the buses so that the passengers enter from the rear of the bus to minimize the exposure of the operator to the public, which means we have given up collecting fares on our buses because the fares are collected up front, but the safety and health and welfare of our operator is very important to us. So we also have a process where we have buses floating around the system. So if the bus driver gets to the point where they see that they're almost out of those eligible seats, at the next stop, they will change their sign to full, and they will only drop passengers off after that. And they call another bus to come in right behind them and start picking passengers up. So we have shut down many of our routes. We're down, instead of 100 plus routes, we only have 40 routes running, the ones with the highest demand. And we've put all of our equipment on those routes. So it's kind of telling us that as we start coming back, we're going to have to reimagine our system because we just have so many buses that we can put out there. On the rail side, it's a little bit more challenging, but because rail cars are more scarce. But we have what are called pockets all around the system where we can park extra trains. And so just like the buses, we have extra trains out there. And if the operators or the station agents see that the train has more people than we believe is appropriate, or it's getting to that point where we'd be bumping up against that number, they make announcements on the trains, for passengers to exit only, and they're not receiving new passengers until many exit, and they bring another train in right behind it and pick up those waiting passengers. So it's kind of like a ballet, a very expensive ballet, at the time when, ridership on the transit system is down more than 70% on the rail side, and we're not collecting fares on the bus side. So it's very challenging. I will say one more thing. One of the challenges we have two extra rider challenges. Every city is experiencing issues with homeless people, and we are very thoughtful about how we deal with the homeless. So we have a relationship with a couple of shelters because we don't want to just take people off the bus and leave them stranded. But we have homeless people who are riding because they have nothing else to do. So we are taking them to shelters. But we also, and this is where I would ask you to talk to all your friends and loved ones. We have people who have nothing to do because they're not working. So they just get on the bus to ride or the train to ride just to go somewhere and do something, but they really don't need the service. So it's creating some issues for us because we can tell that they're really not destined for any place. So it's really informing us of the challenges that we have ahead of us to figure out how to successfully operate a system that serves the public we strongly desire to serve, but in a very safe manner. I hope I answered the question okay.
No, I think you did a great job of answering the question. And just a reminder, anyone that else has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. That's great. And Marcia, that was a very specific answer. And it sounds like you've been doing a lot of problem solving, right? Which is a huge part of civil engineering. So the next question is how are civil engineers best prepared to help during the COVID-19 pandemic? They're obviously uniquely positioned. Bob, what kind of thoughts do you have on that topic?
One thing that I think is very fortunate for civil engineers, and I feel very blessed to be a civil engineer, is, our line of work, we're not really, we've done it traditionally, like we tether ourselves to an office and a physical space that we're supposed to report to, but in reality, we have a profession that doesn't require that of us. We can do very good work remotely. I think that's being proven a little bit. And so I think that's something unique in that we can, we can continue working without having to go to an office, which is not available for, there is telemedicine, but, doctors, somebody selling food at a grocery, like they have to be there to work. The other thing that I think is unique and can work in our favor to help with this is that a lot of the work that civil engineers do is involving spaces that are publicly owned, like road right-of-ways, parks, just public property, mass transportation. And so when we design those projects, we can now consider improvements to those projects based on a scenario like this. Really improvements that are encouraging people to be outside more, which is just shown to be a health benefit. And I think you do that by improving those spaces, more trees, more grass. And I think there's this opportunity because a lot more people are spending more time outside right now, and they're seeing some of the limitations. They're just like, wow, this sidewalk's only 3 feet wide. That's kind of not enough space for me and my kids and the dog and the stroller. and or we're all riding bikes, and like, look, there's not enough room for the bikes, and so I think that's our opportunity, and a lot of that again ties to people's health. When you talk about reducing the heat island effect by planting trees and grass, like that's like shown to reduce instances of childhood asthma, which obviously people that have asthma are sort of identified as being more sensitive to COVID-19. And I think that's where our work was already headed, like sort of looking at these projects as like that. What can you do besides fix the road? Like, why rebuild the road exactly like it was built in 1940? Like, could we do something better? Like, the world has changed. And I think this is an opportunity for us to maybe accelerate that change, with sort of this idea that like, hey, people, this is a quality of life issue. We can improve people's quality of life in these spaces that are open for everybody to use. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Those are some great thoughts. Brian, did you have any thoughts about how civil engineers are uniquely positioned to help society?
Yeah. So this is crazy, but as civil engineers, we solve problems. We are problem solvers. We think of systems and way to fix things. So with this pandemic, this is probably one of the biggest problems we've ever had. And when this happened, basically my mind was racing on what can we do to help. So, and on my day-to-day job, and I work for the Los Angeles Department of Transportation, I'm a project manager on multiple projects. So I use those same skill sets where I'm dealing with funding, I'm dealing with teams, I'm dealing with designers, I'm dealing with multiple groups of people, and I implemented that to be able to produce face shields for first responders. So I took it as the same approach of me being an engineer. I first thought, all right, how can I get some funds to get this project going? So I started a fundraiser. Next thing I did is I assembled a team to help me out. So I have a group of people helping me out with 3D design. As a civil engineer, I know AutoCAD, but my 3D modeling space isn't the best as some of my friends who are mechanical engineers who do this on a day-to-day basis. So I connected with them. I needed somebody to help me out with communication, so I sent up somebody to help me with graphic design and kind of rallying up any marketing information. And basically from then on out, just logistics after logistics of how to coordinate, how to be able to produce the product, how to be able to deliver it to the hospitals, and how to make sure that this whole process is one streamlined as quick and easy as possible. With the same time of being due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have these very difficult constraints where we can't physically be in the same room together to do all this. So all of this was done virtually. So just basically using my own engineering mindset to tackle this problem, and here we are now. So now it's at a point where it's scalable, and we can go on from there.
Absolutely. So a related question just came in the chat box. Is anyone hearing me echo?
I am.
No.
Just a little.
All right. Well, hopefully it gets better. Here's a question in the chat box. What can other civil engineering innovations other than building emergency quarantine rooms? So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of building going on with hospitals and quarantine rooms and whatnot. What other type of innovative projects have you all seen? And I know you've talked about a lot of them so far, but do you all have other ideas? Luke, did you want to talk about maybe some other ideas?
I mean, I guess I can speak on behalf of just being an employee at Costco. I would say some of the innovations that I've seen are just marking out the aisles and encouraging people to stay away 6 feet, providing the proper signage and things of that nature. When people get in line, there are markings on the line on the floor, which reminds me of like pavement marking, for example, on the roads. Kind of controlling traffic in some fashion or another. So it sounds a bit silly, but it definitely works.
Yeah, there's so many things that we could be doing. And I know, Brian, Bob, Marcia, you've all talked about some great things that are very innovative that don't necessarily require building a hospital. So it's great to see there's so many opportunities and things that you can do to help. Marcia, even within, Pie It Forward, it sounds like a great project.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody can find their niche to help. There's something that everybody can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are getting kind of close on time. Are there any more questions that we want to enter into the chat box? I'll give you maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. And I guess at a community level, we've talked about this quite a lot, but I know there's, maybe things that aren't engineering related. Bob, you've talked about, Uber Eats and whatnot. What are some of the things that you're doing personally to kind of give back to the community? Brian, is that something that you want to talk about? I guess you're printing 3D masks.
Yeah,
that's pretty personal. Is there anything else that you're doing, maybe within supporting local business that you want to talk about?
I mean, a lot of this is basically in order to get a lot of these supplies, we've reached out to a lot of the vendors. So they understand that in the 3D printing industry, there's been a demand for more plastic material, more protective films. So they've been very responsive, and I'm always a huge supporter of small businesses. So we've reached out to a few local businesses around here to see if we can partner with them on supplies, and they've been more than helpful to obviously contribute whatever they can to support the cause.
Awesome, that's great. So one last question in the chat box. In the debate for an effective solution for urban mobility needs, do you see COVID-19 as a dent to the otherwise very strong transit argument? Marcia, I'm going to direct that one to you.
Okay, yeah. So I do have some concerns. I think it's going to take a long time for people to feel comfortable coming back to transit. But my hope is that when they sit in the very famous Atlanta congestion for a week or two, that they realize that the alternative is a better alternative. And if we do our job making it safe for them to be there, whether it's through controlling the number of people who get on a train or bus or keeping things particularly clean, that people will come back to transit. It has another impact as well. I grew up in New York City and have reconnected with all of my high school friends. We just had a milestone reunion. I hate to admit that it was a 50-year reunion. Oh my goodness. But many of them live in these mega apartment buildings in and around the city. And I know in the Atlanta area, we've been densifying within a certain part of the metro area, trying to build, a more walkable community. You need some density to justify more transit. You need denser communities. So now we're kind of on that trend for more people in a smaller area. And both from a development side and a travel side, how are people going to transition back to feeling comfortable? It's gonna be phased. It's gonna take time, but we all have been through other major crises, and we recovered and we got back. And in some cases, we even went beyond where we were before. So it may take a little while, but I hold out hope that we will demonstrate enough responsibility that people will feel okay coming back. And as I said, traffic will be bad enough that they'll want to come back.
Absolutely. So one last question for you all. I know a lot of people are getting stimulus checks in the mail. Have you all, and those of us that have been fortunate enough to get those stimulus checks in the mail, are there things that you're thinking about certain organizations that could really benefit the most from that money and who you want to give back to. Is that something that that you all have thought through at all? Bob, do you want to talk to that?
Sure. Yeah. I think, what I look for in organizations that I want to give money to is, and I think this kind of like leads back to that question about like an innovation in design. I mean, I don't know if this is an innovation, but I just think about just a more human-centered approach to design and like thinking about people and thinking about the most vulnerable people. My city has a lot of vulnerable people, homeless people, very low income people. And we have a lot of people that, artists, musicians that they've lost their money and it's not as easy to collect unemployment when you get paid cash to play a music show every night. And so I look for organizations that are trying to help those people. There's a really cool organization, these guys I met, it's called Tank Proof. They teach kids how to swim is sort of their mission, but now they've sort of pivoted to feeding kids that aren't in school because low-income families often, those kids, that's where they get their healthy meals from is when they're at school, and they've been out of school, for a while now. So yeah, I mean, I just look for organizations that are focused on the most vulnerable people in society. That's my general approach, and I guess I look on the internet and just word of mouth and things like that to identify those organizations, people I know that are going to do good with the money that I give to them.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good criteria, Bob.
Yeah.
Do we want to go ahead and share some closing thoughts? Maybe, one key element that you really are going to focus on throughout the summer and the fall as far as giving back during the pandemic. Brian, did you want to start us off?
Yeah, let me unmute myself real quick. There we go. Yeah, so in all of this, realistically, even where everyone is doing great things here, but as a society as a whole, we need to stay positive through this. Realistically, we don't know what's going to happen next, and the news says one thing, and then reports and scientists say another. So we don't know what's going to happen. So the best thing is, stay positive, stay safe, and this is where realistically us as community, we've been united together to basically help save lives. And everybody on this call and everyone that's chiming in right now, you guys are calling in because you guys are in support of this mission. So give it time. We're all in this together. And, thank you guys for doing what you guys are doing right now.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Brian. We really appreciate it. Luke, do you want to go ahead and share your closing thoughts?
I think Brian hit it right on the head. It's really about being in this together, looking out for one another, looking out for others in our community, and just spread, good positivity and good hope, and try to do the right thing whenever you can.
Absolutely. Bob, what are some of your last thoughts on the topic?
I think, there's been a lot of mention about that, civil engineers were trained to solve problems. And I think that's why this situation is probably frustrating for us, because it's like not a very easily solvable problem, like first off. And so I think I would just encourage people to be patient, stay positive, and, really try to take the time to identify the problems. I mean, I think there's some short-term problems and it's awesome to work on those, but I think the long-term problems are not as easily identifiable within our work. And so just take some time and thought around that so we can make effective, long-lasting change.
Absolutely. That's the goal, right? Long-lasting change.
Absolutely.
Marcia, do you want to go ahead and close us out with your last thoughts?
Sure, I appreciate that. So my first priority is making sure my team is okay, and in whatever form or fashion it takes for us to come back together, that we that something good comes out of it from our experience working independently, but finding those places where we can grow as a team as we come back together. We have a huge program to deliver, a big capital program to deliver. And so it's really important to make sure that we're all both mentally and physically well. And I'm sure we've all put on the quarantine 15 from all the baking I've been doing and all those good things. But on a serious note, MARTA has a charity club, and employees donate money during the year, and through the club we do good works out into the community. And a small group of us from the executive management team have asked to set up a component that is inwardly facing, so that we have resources. Who knows what's going to come up over the next 6 months or a year for our employees as an outcome from this period of time and the ongoing concerns that may linger. And so we decided we would like to do some fundraising and do some inwardly facing things for our staff members who are in need. So that's my big push for the balance of this year.
That's great. I mean, it's so important to help those in need, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for everything that you all have done during these really, really difficult times. You all have been leaders and really have just given back to help your communities. And I think all of us on this call greatly appreciate your efforts, and want to give you a huge round of applause. Thank you all also for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. I also want to remind everyone that ASC members do have access to continue this conversation on ASC Collaborate to talk about some of the things that they're doing to give back. And if you have any questions about ASCE in general, please feel free to contact me and we can talk about some of the benefits that come with ASC membership. I will be sending out this recording hopefully on Monday so that all of you can watch it at a later date. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us.